Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. The 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had ordered them. When they all saw him, they worshipped, but they doubted. Then Jesus approached and said to them, "All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always until the end of the age." The Gospel of the Lord. When the first atomic bomb was tested in the New Mexico desert during World War II, it was infamously given the name the Trinity test. It's a little unclear why J. Robert Oppenheimer, the head of the Manhattan Project, chose that somewhat blasphemous name for the first atomic bomb, but he was reading two books at the time. One was the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu scriptures, and he famously quotes a line from those scriptures where Vishnu, who is a god that's part of a much darker trinity, famous says, "I have become death, the destroyer of worlds." But he was also reading another book. It was a book by a Christian priest. It was the Holy Sonnets of John Donne, the great poet. And in that book is the beautiful poem, "Batter My Heart, Three-Person God." It's all about the power of God's love to transform the human heart. "Batter my heart, three-person God. For you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, or throw me and bend, your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new." After the blinding vision of the first atomic bomb faded from his sight and he took off his glasses, Oppenheimer couldn't really remember why he had chosen the name Trinity. But perhaps those two books represented for him the two choices that humanity had in the atomic age, a choice of death or a choice of life. Nuclear power is just that. It's power. It's what you choose to do with it that matters. And you can use nuclear power to help cure cancer, but you can also use it to wipe out cities. And so what we choose to do with this power is very important. And if you've seen the Oscar-winning movie Oppenheimer, you know that this great scientist that helped develop the fission bombs during World War II later on became very concerned that as we were growing in so much power, we were maybe not growing in the wisdom needed to use that power. And so he ended up opposing the development of the fusion bombs, the H-bombs in 1950s that were developed, because that was a much greater power. That was no longer the power to destroy cities. It was the power to wipe out all of human civilization. It was literally harnessing the power of the stars, and that was too much power for humanity to have, Oppenheimer thought, no matter how well-intentioned we might be. Today, Jesus speaks about his power in the gospel, which is much greater than all the atomic arsenals on earth. "All power in heaven and on earth has been given to me," Jesus says. "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." The power that Jesus has is the power that John Donne talks about. It's the power to make all things new. It's the power to transform hearts and cities and whole nations, not with a destructive fire, but with the purifying power of the fire of the Holy Spirit. "I have come to set the earth on fire," Jesus says, "and how I wish it were already burning." This is the secret fire that's at the heart of everything in creation because God put it there. The God who created the whole universe in a word. It's a fire that's at the heart of every star and every human heart. It's the fire of the Holy Spirit. It's the fire that was renewed when God the Father sent his Son and sent the Holy Spirit into this world to make things new again. And it's the fire that Moses talks about in our reading today. He says, he reminds the Israelites, what nation ever experienced power of God like you did? God leveled an entire nation that was much greater than you, Egypt, and rescued you from slavery. He brought you out to the desert of Sinai, and there you witnessed amazing things. God gave you a law so that his love could be in your hearts. What other nation heard the voice of God speaking from the midst of fire as you did and lived? God was so good. God showed his power, his mighty hand to the Israelites, rescuing them from slavery. God is always greater than anything else. God is greater than his creation because he created it in a word. God is much greater than anything we can imagine. He's infinitely great. And yet, he chose to give some of that power to us. We have a tremendous power that comes from God. It's the power of our freedom. It's the power to choose good or evil. It's the power to choose to heal or to kill. The power to choose war or to choose peace. In our freedom, we can choose what we want to do. We can either allow our hearts to be battered by God and his love, the three-person God, because what the Trinity means is that God is love. He's always been love. Even before he created the universe, he was this eternal communion of love, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He made us in his image. So when we allow that love to batter our hearts, life springs up. Just like God is creative, we become creative. Everything around us turns to good. Our homes, our workplaces, our communities, our worlds, there's life. But when we shield our hearts from that love, then we become death, the destroyer of homes and workplaces and communities and worlds. The choice is in our hands. Every Memorial Day we say we remember all those brave men and women who gave their life to protect our freedom. And we say we honor their memory by choosing a path that leads to peace, to preserve the peace that they fought and died for. God has given us so much, and it's kind of mind-boggling. It's a little bit amazing what God has done for us, and we forget it sometimes. We have to remember. Do we understand how much power is in our hand every day? All around us, for better or for worse, we can choose to make the people around us better or worse, the things around us better or worse. We can choose to love or choose to hate. We make a real difference. That's real power. And we'll be judged on how we use that power. It might not be the power that presidents or prime ministers have, but it's real power. And so will presidents and prime ministers. They'll be judged too by how they use their power. And they have that tremendous power in their hands to push a button. And then all those weapons go off. You know, a lot of experts are worried that as the generations go on, where we get farther removed from all those generations that developed those weapon systems and the safeguards around them and understood that awesome power, that maybe the wisdom isn't getting passed on. And we see that in just the way that world leaders right now seem to be casually threatening to use tactical nuclear weapons on the battlefield. It's a sense that maybe they don't understand the power they have. That's not the power to end a war. It's the power to end the world. But that's all the fear of the nuclear age. We're at the dawn of a new age in which scientists are hurtling forward, developing new power. Power, just like in the days of the Manhattan Project, there's a new power at work. And many scientists think that power that's being developed will one day put nuclear power to shame. It will make it look like child's play. It's the power of artificial intelligence systems that may one day meet or surpass human capabilities. And who knows where that goes, but do we need to maybe stop and ask, why are we developing that power? What is that power for? Do we even know? That's what one scientist who attended a conference on AI at the Vatican this week asked. Maybe we need to ask those types of questions and seek wisdom before we just develop power for power's sake or give greater autonomy to systems that we don't fully understand. The scientist said this: the Catholic tradition is filled with hope, but it is also tinged with a sense of bitterness or a feeling that human life does not conform to what it is meant to be, which is why AI, which can promise us a utopia, needs to always be aware of both the beauty and the pain that we all experience. Whether AI systems can be imbued with the wealth of human experience remains to be seen. But a larger question is whether the technology will keep humanity's best interests at heart when its intelligence surpasses that of the people who created it. The potential for good, the potential for addressing humanity's greatest issues is unparalleled, unprecedented, and profound. The question is, who's going to develop that AI, and with what values? We stand at the dawn of a new age indeed, but so did the apostles. They were at the dawn of the apostolic age, the age of the church. And it must have been frightening to hear those words of Jesus telling them, hey, go out to a nation you've never been to before. Go speak a language you've never even heard before. Who knows what dangers or persecutions you'll face? But they were not afraid, because they had already allowed their hearts to be battered by the three-person God. They had already experienced in God's love the greatest power that anyone could ever experience. And so, death no longer had power over them. All that was left was life, and life to the full. And they had Jesus' promise, I will be with you until the end of the age. That's Jesus' promise for us as well. Sitting here in Exeter, New Hampshire, we can't control things as big as nuclear weapon systems or AI. That's a little bit beyond us at the moment. But what we can do is allow the love of God to transform our hearts, and so begin to transform the world around us. If we all did that, then we would have not a utopia, that's nowhere, but we would have the new heavens and the new earth that God came to bring about. God is always at work in our hearts. Batter my heart, three-person God. Allow your love to transform me. I want to walk on that journey that leads to life, the path that only you can lead me on. And ask anyone who's been on that journey. That journey can be difficult. Ask Dante. Dante, in his Divine Comedy, was on that journey to be transformed by divine love, to find his truest self. And that journey literally led him through hell and through purgatory and up the mountain to heaven. And when he finally got to the highest heavens, he saw the vision of God, that beatific vision of the Holy Trinity that we hope to see at the end of our journey. And that vision was so bright and so glorious and so beautiful that he could only describe it in poetry that, in apologies to John Donne, is some of the most beautiful poetry ever written. As l'amor que move el sol e la terre stelle, the love that moves the sun and the other stars.